right. How's everybody doing today? Today is the new year, first of the year. We are coming into a new year with a new theme. Um, I guess you could call that new theme the same theme because I like truth. I like being raw. I like being real. And I like being uncut. I don't want to give you anything out of the ordinary. So I guess you could say new year, same me because we ain't changing. Uh, we have a great show for you today, and I appreciate you for showing up as you always do, time in, time out. Let's um let's take a little bit of a navigational walk through this new year. There's a lot of things going on in the news, and we're going to break down the things that they're not telling you because it's what they're not telling you that is most important. We have some pretty good stories for you today, so sit back, relax, and enjoy. As always, we open with prayer. We give thanks to the Most High, and let's get into it. Dear Lord, thank you, God, for today. Thank you for a new year, Father. Thank you for protecting America, Father. I thank you for blessing us and keeping us, even though we are unworthy and unwilling to do what you ask us to do, God. I ask that you just continue to bless us and open our eyes, open the eyes of the nations, Lord, so that we can see the evil that is in the world and root it out. We are the people, and as we, the people, we hold the power. God, help us to understand where our power lies in you and in the words that you've given us and how to use those words accordingly to the Constitution and to the Word of God. In Jesus' mighty name I pray. Amen. Let's get into it. So, our first story of the day, and I have to change some things over here. Our first story of the day is a pretty good story. It is something that Trump is doing as always, because you know he's always doing something. Trump is always doing something, and that is what a president should be doing: is being proactive. If a president is not proactive, is he a good president? So our first story right here today, and I have to pop it up over here on the other stream, is pro vet birth. So what's this about? We're gonna jump right into it. The media is exploding with headlines claiming Trump and his administration has banned abortion for veterans. Well, that's a lie. That's we're gonna start out with the truth. That's a lie, and they're saying that through the VA, that they're abandoning all emergency care. That also is a lie. It sounds very dramatic because they can't get your clicks, likes, and views if you aren't sucked into the drama. And like most legacy media, the narratives always leave you with the oohs and the ahs, but no critical facts to back them. But I'm going to give you that because what's really actually happening is at the Department of Veterans Affairs, it's not a random just attack on abortion as the left would have you to believe it. It's actually a very thought out process, and it's not actually political in any way, shape, or form. Because why should our Veterans Affairs, who's meant solely for the vets and their health and their needs, as it pertains to their service that they gave us, be paying for abortions? Here's the thing, off script, completely off script. We have this problem in the nation where the left will tell you we are not paying for abortions, but any taxpayer funding that goes towards assisting, helping, or even paying for this is indeed paying for the abortions. And taxation without representation, you know how that goes. So, with this being said, up until this last turning point here, essentially, the veterans have been able to get abortions off the taxpayer's dime, even through the ACA or the Affordable Care Act or the Obamacare, if you know it like that. They have been paying for abortions through those means. So this is mainly about what the VA is legally allowed to do. The services are for the veteran, not the veteran's wives or girlfriends or whatever. And what it never had the authority to do in the first place. It's essentially what we're getting at here. So here's the core of the issue. For decades, the VA did not provide abortions and did not offer abortions or abortion counseling for the people that needed the counseling for that. that wasn't something that was controversial or even a federal issue or law at the time. But after Roe was overturned in 2022, the Biden administration unilaterally, that means by himself, unilaterally expanded the VA services because the Veterans Affairs is under the executive branch, so he has, in some way, shape, or form, that authority to do so. So he expanded the VA services, allowing abortions and including cases of rape and incest without congressional change in the law. So here's the problem: when it comes to money, that is solely based off of the hand of Congress. Now, while the VA services and the Departments of Veterans Affairs is under the tutelage of the executive branch, that does not give them the right or the ability to just up and take money from that and give it to them for whatever they feel like they need. It takes a act of Congress, but under the Biden administration, Congress did not act. Both that, well, of course, we know the Democrats are on the side of the Biden administration at the time, and the Republicans are weak and feckless at the time. So nothing was done about it. They just let them do what they were supposed to do, and they were too busy poking and prodding around trying to get things passed that had nothing to do with anything for the benefit of the United States, but the benefits of themselves and their own pockets. That expansion was then challenged. And now, under the Trump administration, the Department of Justice has issued a legal opinion stating that the obvious facts that the VA does not have congressional authorization to provide abortion services, so that the VA is now reverting back to what the law originally stated. That means no more elective abortions and no more abortion counseling. The emergency care still is permitted only when necessary to save the life of the mother. So when they say ectopic pregnancy, for whatever reason they consider that an abortion, no, that is not a viable pregnancy, and nor will it become a viable pregnancy at any point in time. And with that tubal pregnancy, the mother and the baby will cease to be, and healthcare says we give life-saving measures. That is quite literally the definition of healthcare, life-saving measures. So with the tubal pregnancies or ectopic pregnancies or miscarriages, treatment is still there. And the left would have you to believe that they're just, they're just taking everything away. They're just letting anybody just die on the table, like the big push they did all throughout the 2020s and, well, from 2018 onward. They were preaching that the Republicans were pushing for women to die on the table. Listen, women, I am not a woman, and I'm not going to ever claim to be one, but for the most part, it is very rare that a woman gets pregnant and doesn't know she's not pregnant. Her body changes, hormones change, a lot of things change, cravings, all the things. So if a woman is pregnant and doesn't know it, she is of a rare state, and for the most part, it's not something that is huge enough to make a tremendous change for the entirety of the country. And all those women that they paraded around saying were pregnant during the time that the Republicans were trying to push back on Roe v. Wade, all those women knew they were pregnant. And most of these women committed atrocities on those babies in their stomachs anyway, and or didn't do what they were needing to do to save their own lives. But this is not about ideology. It's about statutory authority. And here's where the headlines get dishonest with you. You'll hear phrases like emergency service eliminated, no context. Veterans denied life-saving care, no context. Health care stripped away, no context. For all that is lovely and righteous in the world, abortions are not health care. If it is not a viable pregnancy, it is healthcare because it is detrimental to the life of the mother. The baby is not viable. At no juncture of the pregnancy will that baby ever be viable. So it is what it is in that situation, life-saving care. But emergency care is still provided when a woman's life is at risk, like I stated earlier. What is being removed is the redefinition of abortion as routine health care inside a system of Congress never authorized for that purpose. So We got to stop playing games where we go back and forth with this push and pull of what is and what isn't. What is the truth is the veterans need to be taken care of. What what isn't true is they're not losing health care. They're not. That's not true. But the Democrats would have you to believe that is the case. So, with that in mind, where do we go from here? Because this is about something bigger than just a singular policy. It's about whether federal agencies can create healthcare entities and entitlements without Congress. That would be a violation. And our Congress has not been in working order for a very long time. I mean, all the way back to the early 1900s. It has not been in working order according to the Constitution, and they have been violating left and right. And nobody says anything because, as I stated in the prayer, nobody knows how to read. Nobody knows the words that are written down in the Constitution. They think 2A means I can pull my gun out and defend myself. No. They think 1A is that you can say whatever you want and no one can tell you what you can and can't say. No, that is not what those things are. You should learn what petitioning your government for redress of grievances mean. If you do, you'll learn how to write a notice and an affidavit and affect real change in our nation instead of just sitting back saying words on the internet and never affecting real change. If you are not writing your government on at least a monthly basis for things that you see that are problems, then you are the problem, not the government. Because if you leave a child unattended, then the child is going to do foolish things. The Bible actually says foolishness is bound in the heart of a child. And guess how that foolishness gets unbound? When you let them do what they want to do without supervision. That would mean that we are the neglecting parents. Or, in this case, the neglecting boss. How many bosses get told to do what to do by the employee? Can you tell me where that happens at? In any form or facet, in any career field, or even schooling, where the students tell the teacher what to do? These people are servants and trustees for us. We vote for them to go do what's in our best interest. And giving money to people to go abort their children, where most of these are people making elective choices to do so, not because they were actually raped or assaulted, is not conducive to the people overall. That money could be well spent in other facets. That is the definition of taxation without representation. And the truth is simple. Congress wants the VA to provide abortion services. Congress must pass a law. Until that happens, then the VA must operate within its legal authority, which was set by Congress long ago. That is not cruelty. That is constitutional governance. And if you think anything other than that, then you should go live in another country because you're not abiding by what makes America America. So our next story here is, let me pop this one off over here, is pro-vet. Oh, 1 second. Why that? Let's see. There we go. Let's pop that off here and there. There we go. We're having technical difficulties because this one over here is being a pain in the butt. There we go. All right. My apologies. So the next story is that the right one? I think that is. No, that is not the right one. These are out of order for some reason. 1 second. Give me 1 second. There we go. Slightly out of order, but we're going to fix that. And here you go. All right. Our next story is Israel. I am once again asking for your donations. If anybody knows who this man is. That is Benjamin Netanyahu on Bernie Sanders' body. Play on words. If I have to explain it, then you don't get it. But a lot of people are dense nowadays, so I'll explain it anyway. But big defense news coming out of the Pentagon. It has announced that they're going to give $8.6 billion in contract with Boeing to produce an F-15 fighter jet for Israel. It will be called the F-15IA, Israel Air Force. That's what that stands for. You know, the government and their acronyms. But I have a problem with this. This deserves some form of scrutiny and oversight from we, the people, because that's our money, right? Going to build something for another country. I am very much America first, but I'm slowly but surely becoming America only. So 25 of these new fighter jets are going to be created with an option for 25 more later down the road. The total cost will be $8.6 billion, and Israel pays for the aircrafts through foreign military sale. This is not a gift. It's not. But it is backed by the U.S. government and their approval. The U.S. political capital and U.S. strategic commitment to, production for Israel will take place in the Boeing facilities in the United States. So I'm confused, because some of these American aircraft that we have and American ships that we have aren't made in America, but somehow, some way, we're making American-made ships or planes in this case for Israel. Why is it that another country gets American-made products, but America can't get American-made products? That is one of my places of contention. So the delivery stretches well within the 2030s, and this is a long-term obligation, not a one-time transaction. Why this isn't so simple? Because there's a lot of red tape you have to jump through. You have to be clear on understanding that Israel has a real security threat because they're constantly having to fight off the people around them. Whatever reason you believe that they have to fight them off is up to you. I have mine. Some of you have yours. Some of you are pro-Israel. Some of us are not. So no serious person denies that they are under constant attack. And maintaining military parity is in that particular region is something that matters. But here's where the questions start arising, where I start feeling myself and wondering what's really going on. At a time when American readiness is strained, recruitment numbers are now just hitting where they need to be because for a long time they were down, and the veterans are fighting for VA care. The U.S. infrastructure is crumbling in a lot of places. Why are we locking in a massive foreign defense contract? $8.6 billion is not little money. And could you imagine one of these jets getting blown out of the sky? That's money out of our pocket. And this is not going to be something that just goes away overnight. This is something that has decades-long consequences. That doesn't make it wrong overall, but it doesn't make it right either. And I have a massive level of contention here, because I see what is going on in Israel, and I see what's going on in America. And Trump did push this ideology that he wants to make America great again. To make America great again, you have to put America first. Propping up these long-standing, huge deals with people that are not American and countries that are not America doesn't benefit America. It only serves to benefit the other nations. And people will say, "Oh, well, they're an ally. They're an ally." Cool. Name me 5 commodities that Israel trades around the world that's not IT or tech related or weapons related. America's a big country. We have a lot of money. We can make our own weapons. So tell me what they provide us in this alliance. They wouldn't even have that New Jersey sized landmass if it weren't for America and Britain. So tell me how we're benefiting from this process. They make us weapons. Yay. They give us great technology. Yay. America's this great country, right? Trump's trying to make America great again, right? And if we're going to be great again, why are we giving others our greatness? Why are we developing special fighter jets for others' greatness and not our own? It makes no sense to me. This deal highlights the larger issue in Washington. Foreign military sales often move faster than domestic accountability. So when in America, we put forth these bills and these acts and stuff like that, it can take anywhere from 6 months to 2 years before they're implemented. Yet somehow, some way, when we make deals with foreign adversaries or foreign allegiances, because we do deals with people that are not necessarily our friends, those things go through real quick, fast, in a hurry. That errs on the same side of taxation without representation. Congress signs off on agencies and execute these things, and then taxpayers are told it's strategic. I'm tired of strategy, and I want more transparency. Strategy only serves to do military operations and political games. I'm not a child, so I don't want to play games. And I'm not in the military, so I don't need to know what's really going on that side of things. But what I would like to know why our money is constantly being funneled out to other nations. At first, under Biden, it was Ukraine, 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 Palestine, 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 while America suffered. And Trump steps in and raises money here and raises money there to help Americans out. Yet now we see America under Trump's administration going Israel, 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 Israel. What do they do for us? Or what's that song? Or how did that song go? What have you done for me lately? What has Israel done for us lately? History lesson. When 9/11 went down, how many IDF fighters lost their lives in the GWAT, Global War on Terror, fighting beside Americans? I bet you can't tell me. But I can tell you that 7,089 Americans lost their lives. 0 IDF fighters lost their lives fighting next to and beside Americans. That's a strange thing. Those numbers are way off. So it's something you should pay attention to. If you're not paying attention, then you're a part of the problem. Our next story here is adapt or die. I don't know why that keeps coming up. Did I do that wrong? 1 second. I think I might have did that wrong. Let me fix that. Uno momento, por favor. Let's fix this right here. I don't know how I messed that up that bad. Strange. And we'll fix that. Fantastic. Sorry about that. Adapt or die. And we're going to jump right into it. The U.S. is pledged $2 billion to the UN humanitarian aid. And that sounds like it's a generous proposition, but the context matters. Again, the media, the legacy media, is going to perpetrate this as Trump's a bad person for doing this. It's not really help. He's a horrible person. He doesn't care about humanitarian aid. You're right. Partly. He doesn't care, but he does. He gives what he thinks is owed, not what they really want. Because a lot of people would walk around saying, I want $1 million. I want $1 million. But could you handle that $1 million? For years, the United States has been pumping funding into the UN and in NATO. And what have we gotten back out of this? Nothing. So The context really does matter. The same nation once contributed $17 billion in a single year. Now we're contributing $2 billion. Trump is of the mindset that he believes that you should pay your fair share if you are going to be in this allegiance and alliance of nations. If we're going to be united, one country shouldn't foot 60% or more of the overall income of a union. That's not really something that is built on stability. That's a sharp pivot under pressure. And Trump has really turned things around in this particular at facets of things. He's turned things around because you see him making deals with Israel, and now you see him pulling away from the UN and other groups in like NATO and so on and so forth. And you see these changes happening, but this is actually something that is beneficial. I had to get on his head on the last one, but this one right here, I can give him his kudos. Americans still care overall about this situation in the UN and humanitarian aid, and Americans still lead with the most money given. But the conditions needed to be set because we were being taken advantage of. Accountability and purpose. There was only accountability when we gave. Nobody else really gave. You could have totaled up all the other nations combined, and they still wouldn't have given more than the United States was doing. So essentially, we were daddy warbucks. We were the pocket. And according to the State Department, this money is designated to be impact driven. So that means when something bad happens, the money goes, not just giving out because we think in the UN that this is okay or this should be doing that, going to where we think it should go. It's not something that's meant for a blank check type of deal. And that's important because for too long, foreign aid has made this huge splash as a big slush fund. You saw it when U.S. aid went under. Do you guys remember all of the money that was being funneled out? Hell, even under U.S. aid in the United States, we were funding places like our enemies. We were funding groups like Hezbollah, groups like ISIS, groups like Hamas. We were funding terrorist groups because U.S. aid would get money and have it allocated to them, and then they would give this money to GMOs? NGOs, sorry. Non-government organizations, and those non-government organizations would give that money out. It was almost to the tune of $40 million a week given out to terrorist groups alone. Why? Because there was no accountability and there was no oversight. It was just take this money and do what you want with it. Now, things have been tightened up. You're not going to get a blank check from America just to go do what you want to do and play how you want to play. It doesn't work like that. The Trump administration is saying, hey, we'll give, but we'll decide how, we'll decide where, and we'll decide why. That's not anti-humanitarian, that's pro-American taxpayer. In this case, he has done something good. It's pro-results. But make no mistake, this is not something that's going to get a good reaction because the left and even those in the UN are already throwing up their arms. Hey, you can't tell us how we can and can't do. This is the problem. When you constantly give and give and give and give and give all this money to these people, and then when you start to slow down on the giving, they look at you strange. Why are you slowing down? We were doing good. No, we weren't doing good. You were getting the benefit and we were getting the shaft. I don't like the shaft. So here's some uncomfortable truths. The United Nations asked for $23 billion for global aid next year. I'm going to let that sink in. They asked for $23 billion. Prior to the Trump administration coming in, we were giving 17. Okay? The U.S. is offering $2 billion. That doesn't cover the gap of $21 billion that they're asking. My thing is, why is it that the whole world needs all this help? If these other countries are so great, because they're saying America's not the great country that everybody says it is, yet for some odd reason, people keep coming to America. They're not going to these other countries. So if these countries are so great and so amazing, then why are we giving them money? They should be giving us money. I saw this one thing where it said that Somalia, and this was Ilhan Omar's speaking, said Somalia was a great country. Then why don't you take your light bulb head shaped friends and go back and continue to have your country be great? Because all you've done here is take advantage of Americans and cause crime. If Somalia is so great, take Allah and your light bulb headed friends back to Somalia. Didn't Benjamin Netanyahu just say that you guys are now a nation? He gave you nationhood, like full blown nationhood. So go back. You got full blown nationhood now. You're a part of the group now. We don't need you here because we keep giving and giving and giving. Yet we have Americans that are dying on the streets in the cold, homeless. We have Americans being raped and trafficked. We have Americans that are dying because their mental health is abysmal. We used to be one of the top in the world for mental health help, and now we're one of the lowest for mental health help, but one of the highest for mental health issues. Why? Because we keep giving others, but not taking care of us. And that is where the problem really unfolds. The UN wants 23 billion, but what are we going to get out of this? When Hurricane Helene hit 4 states and obliterated them, did the UN send help? When Maui caught on fire and 3,500 families were misplaced, did the UN come help? When the fires in California happened, did the UN help? When the floods in Texas happened, did the UN help? No. Oh, why not? Can anybody tell me why the UN didn't help? I'm perplexed. Why didn't the UN help? America struggled. America hurt. But it was Americans that helped America, not the UN. So you get $2 billion and you'll be happy. Take what you get and don't throw a fit, as we tell our kids. We care about human suffering, check. We will provide assistance strategically, check. We will give subsidies to dysfunction, check. We'll prioritize all accountability over optics, check. Now, the critics can scream from the top of their lungs that $2 billion is not enough. But when it comes down to brass tacks, I would rather have that $21 billion we're saving go to Americans. If it goes anywhere else, that is not doing a service to the American people. It is a great disservice. Our next story is Taiwan and friends. Let me get this one off the screen. There we go. Now they're in order. I apologize. China has just kicked off some of its most aggressive military drills, live fire exercises around the island of Taiwan. Beijing calls it a stern warning against external interference, and Taiwan independence is on the teetering of being taken. But we have to be honest. This isn't training what they're doing. It's intimidation. And it's timed back after a major U.S. arms deal that just took place between the United States and Taiwan. China's People's Liberation Army launched a massive joint drills with their biggest and baddest warships, their greatest and latest fighter jets, shooting missiles and rockets that flew within mere miles of the island of Taiwan and all around their airspace. Could you imagine if one of these things exploded over Taiwan and shrapnel and debris fell and people lost their lives or were hurt? In some of these cases, the rockets landed close to Taiwan's defensive boundary that they have set up. So this is like the definition of a thin line that they're towing, and their fingernails are just almost over the line, and their toenails are just over the line. They're playing a very dangerous game. Beijing is practicing blockades and stimulated strikes near critical ports, and this isn't them being subtle at all. It's a message and it's pretty loud and clear of what they're trying to say. Let's call it what it is. This isn't normal military cooperations that they're putting in place, it's pressure. China is essentially flexing its military force over the narrative that Taiwan must fall under Beijing's control. And they have been doing this for years. They call it defending their sovereignty. But what it really is them resulting in regional tensions and not peace. And honestly, I do not like this. And hopefully, China backs back just a wee bit, because if they hit Taiwan, more than likely Japan's going to get involved. If they hit Taiwan, more than likely the US is going to get involved. And now you have the potentiality of another world war. Think about it. One of the most powerful militaries in the world firing rockets near a sovereign nation's shores for funsies, or in this case, a warning. That's not stability, that is coercion. And it's crazy, because what it boils down to is, if they provoke them to fire something back, you have the potentiality of a world war. And this is all coming after America gives them one of the largest arms deals America's ever done. China didn't like it. They'd make up this whole ordeal that Taiwan shouldn't have these weapons. But what are you going to do about it? Because we gave them to them. We did. So you have to come at us. Why are you not flying around our borders and dropping bombs right outside of our boundaries? One thing Trump doesn't put up with as a commander in chief is bullying. He wants to be the bully. He wants to be the bully. He doesn't put up with it in any other way, shape, or form, especially if you're using war to do so, because he is a man of peace. Otherwise, he wouldn't have procured majority of these peace deals that have happened over the last year. But let's be clear. America should support peace. It should support the defense and the democracies of other countries, because we're a constitutional republic. And it should push back on other countries trying to pressure someone to fall in line. Taiwan is a vibrant, self-governing society that deserves the right to decide what it wants to do with its future. But China is not playing fair. Ultimately, we need to give them more guns. If they're going to try to provoke Taiwan to fire back, we should provoke them to fire at us. They might have one of the largest militaries in the world, but what good is it if you can't move them? I'm not advocating for war. I'm advocating for fighting for someone that has done nothing wrong other than sign some ink on the paper. This is not like Israel and Palestine, where both parties are guilty of treacherous atrocities that they've committed against each other. Both parties. Taiwan has not ever flown over China in their airspace and no-fly zones and dropped bombs. You can't find history of it. And you won't find history of it. If you do, tell me and I'll correct myself. I would appreciate that. Our next story here is the actual one that keeps popping up, that's been popping up the whole time, is no means no. There we go. So this little story is got everybody in a tizzy, because Trump can do no good thing. Everything he does is wrong. Everything he does is bad. And in this case, this is going to be seen as bad too. Donald Trump and his administration has confirmed the United States over the holiday week took out a major facility in Venezuela used to load drug boats. And I know you guys are probably tired of hearing, oh, we don't care. We're tired of hearing about it. And the left is over here. He's killing innocent people. My father was a commercial fisherman. Those are not fishing boats, I assure you. But according to the president, it was a big facility, a critical node in the narcotics pipeline, feeding poison straight into America. We know this to be fact. We know that drugs come from South America, and we know that Venezuela, for a fact, is one of the biggest contributors for this. For years, we talked. For years, we sanctioned. For years, we warned. And this time, we've acted. It's about dang time. I'm tired of family members losing their lives to drugs. I'm tired of friends losing their lives to drugs. I'm tired of loved ones losing their lives to drugs, whether it be through death or through them losing their minds. According to the reporting, the U.S. has struck and hit a dockside facility to stage and load drug shipments. And it wasn't random, and it wasn't something that was symbolic. This was an infrastructure set up to put drugs on boats so those boats could go out and do what they needed to do. And this infrastructure has now been removed. For months, the United States has been intercepting drug boats in international waters. So, to give you context and help you out so you'll understand just a little bit, if a boat does not have in international waters, according to maritime law, if it does not have a country of origin's flag, it's a threat. If it does not respond to hails, it's a threat. And hailing is them, hey, what are you doing? Who are you? Identify yourself. It's a threat. And if it doesn't stop when asked to stop before it leaves international waters and enters other countries' waters, it's a threat. And if you are deemed a threat, you can be removed. When it comes to international waters, it's a whole different game. You can blame that on the pirates that will raid your ships if you get caught in the wrong waters. So now the strategy has shifted. Don't just stop the boats, destroy the launch points. And what has Venezuela done in response to this? Not much. It seems like that's escalation, but it's really smart escalation. It sends a message that's clear to the cartels that they now understand that we're not playing games. We will hit you on your homeland if you don't stop bringing your smack into America. And let me be fair with this. Most of these people get these drugs across the borders because weak, low-life Americans that want to make money will actually help facilitate this. So not only do we need to hit these cartels, we need to hit these Americans that are playing these games too. Yeah, you get rid of them, the big drug lords in America, and we don't have these problems anymore. It needs to be a pincer attack to hit both sides of it if we really want to shut it down. It's bravo, good job when you hit these ships and boats that are coming across international waters with drugs on it, but we need to stop it in our homeland as well. We need to build a task force, and Trump is an excellent commander when it comes to building task force to attack the drugs here as well. This is a fight for America. We have a lot going on. We have terrorists right in our backyard. We have drug dealers right in our backyards. We have Benedict Arnolds being the left in our backyard that will sell their own brothers and sisters out just to look good. Venezuela got the message loud and clear. We'll see if Maduro changes his tone. Otherwise, your boy Don is going to keep bombing and bombing and bombing until there's nothing left to bomb. And that's at the behest of a simple request. Stop the drugs from coming into our nation. If you don't, we will. That's not being a threatening. That is being decisive. It's protecting your nation. It's no different than me walking out on my front porch and telling people to get off my property. And if they come back again, I tell them to get off my property again. If they come back again, I'm going to give them a final warning. If you come back again, I'm going to shoot you because you're coming to cause harm, not to make nice and make friends. So if you put the dog down, the dog won't reoffend. Seems plain and simple enough for me. Our last story of the day is doing time for Jesus. Because we got to give praise to the Holy One and talk about the things that are going on in the world that aren't being talked about. Doing time for Jesus is something that is hard for me to talk about overall because I see it happening all over the world where Christians are persecuted and put away and jailed for not doing anything other than loving God. and proclaiming Jesus. They're not going out knocking door to door like Mormons. They're not telling you you're not going to make it unless you join us like the Jehovah's Witness. They're not doing any of that. They're not telling you have to cleanse your soul like the other Mormons. We won't get into that. That's another story for another time. But it's a problem. It's a problem. So overall, in Iran, and I know we are American centered, but we also are Christ centered. Without Christ, I couldn't do any of this. But in Iran, 5 Christians were recently sentenced to long prison terms, not for crimes, not the violence, because we know that in Iran, their predominant belief system is Islam. These people weren't going around blowing things up or cornering people and telling them that they will believe in Jesus Christ or, terrorizing people. No, 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 no. They weren't stealing. They weren't doing anything other than praying and baptizing other people in the name of Jesus Christ and sharing Bibles. The foundational acts of faith, the Great Commission, if you will. These are ordinary people, nothing special, worshiping boldly, sharing the gospel, and refusing to shrink back from the political authoritarian hand. Now, to coincide with this, you have seen, if you've been paying attention, there's a revolution happening in Iran. Now, I don't know how long this will last or if it will be successful, but there's a revolution taking place. The Iranian people are storming the capitals, tearing down statues, toppling flags. Because if you know history, the Middle East hasn't always been a sandbox of treachery and violence. It used to be no different than America. But through weakness, like America has displayed at times, they allowed people that are violent, extreme, and evil to take power. And once that type of mindset and action takes root, it's very hard to pull it out. You need help. But it starts with the people. Now, each of these 5 people got 5 years in prison, 10 years in prison. That's 50 total years gone. 10 years is a long time. All in the name of Christ. For what? Sharing a Bible, praying, baptizing. And everybody thinks that, that's just going to happen there. It can't happen here. You're wrong. It is happening here. People are going into churches in the United States and shooting them up and killing them like they do in Africa. Christians are being arrested and persecuted. They are. Or did you forget what happened under COVID when pastors left their church buildings open? Did you forget that they were locking pastors up? That same persecution is here. It's just not on the scale that it is there. Why is it so wrong or bad to be a Christian? What is wrong with it if we're just sharing what we believe? Islam says every home in the world will, not might, not maybe, but will have Allah in their homes. That Islam will be in every home. You will worship as we worship. Comply or die. That's their mantra. So what's so wrong with Christianity? Christians aren't throwing gays off of buildings. Christians aren't stoning people in the street or beheading people in the street. Christians aren't doing honor killings because their child doesn't want to marry someone else, or if their child takes off their hijab. They're not drowning their children for this action. Christians aren't having 8 or 9 kids per woman to build an army to take over. These are all things that they do and said that they want to do and have done. But we in America just sit back because it hasn't touched us yet. People don't act in America unless they're touched. But you can be proactive and stop these things before they begin by using your First Amendment properly before you ever have to get to your Second Amendment. It takes people stepping back, stop being selfish, and putting forth effort to stop things from happening that hurt others. Christ came to save man, not to hurt him. And what's so wrong with being told what you're doing is not right? Nothing. You either accept it or you don't. But if we continue to let things happen like they are happening in Iran right now, you're going to prison for what you believe. And don't think they'll just stop with Christians, because you're LGBT, you're next. You Mormons, you're next. You Catholics, you're next. You people are all next. If these people are allowed to have their way, you are next. 1 Corinthians 12:26 says, if one member is honored, or if one member suffers, all suffer together. If one member is honored, all rejoice together. But we can't do that if we are not standing up for one another. So we must pray, we must teach, we must advocate, and we must not forget that this is happening around the world and even in America. These believers are not statistics. They are living witnesses to the power of Jesus' name in a land where faith costs you everything, because they could have been thrown off a building or stoned. Here, we might get a slap on the wrist, but it's coming to the point where it's going to get worse. As always, guys, I appreciate you for joining me today. And I know it was a little bit rougher than normal because some things wasn't working over here on my end. But I hope you're going to come back and join me for next week. And we will continue to give you the truth that the legacy media is not giving you. I appreciate you as always. And make sure you're not one of the ones who are missing the forest for the trees. Have a good one. Okay, maybe not. Bye.